who are both attending the European summit. From Madrid, Malcolm Downing.
The agreement enables a British judge, for example, to order the assets in Spain of a suspected drug trafficker to be seized and confiscated. Spain has become a major entry point into Europe of drugs from North Africa and more recently from South America, and it has an increasingly serious drugs problem of its own. Britain suspects that some convicted British criminals living in Spain since before the extradition treaty between the two countries are profiting from the drugs trade. This agreement, if applied, would at least cut those profits. The agreement also provides for the exchange of intelligence on drug trafficking and cooperation in locating and dismantling drug networks. It's the seventh such agreement signed by Britain, but the first with a European community country. Active negotiations with a number of other countries are underway.
The leader of the National Union of Railwaymen, Mr. Jimmy Knapp, has said there are signs of growing support for industrial action on the railways. He told the union's conference in Newcastle that he expected other unions to join the planned 24-hour stoppage on Wednesday. 2 members of the NUR have failed in the High Court to obtain an injunction to ban the strike. The Soviet authorities say there's no radiation danger from the nuclear-powered submarine which was involved in an accident off the Norwegian coast this morning. The vessel's nuclear reactor had to be shut down, and the submarine is now limping back to its home port of Murmansk using auxiliary engines. The weather. Scotland and Northern Ireland will remain cool and showery. Rain over parts of northern and western England and Wales will move slowly across other parts of England tomorrow, and some places will be very wet. Our next news at 8 o'clock.
You're never far from music. We're playing it all for you on Radio 2.
And talking about music, at 9 o'clock this evening, Campbell Burnap, a jazz trombonist and a former member of Ackerbilt's Paramount Jazz Band, will be standing in this week for Humphrey Lyttelton to present the best of jazz. Right now, though, it's time to join Alan Dell.
Hello again, good evening. Something has gone awry. I picked up a large package of mail a couple of weeks ago, and among a whole sheaf of letters from June the 11th and 12th, there was another envelope of letters that somehow seemed to have got lost in the shuffle somewhere because they were all dated towards the end of February. Obviously got lost in these corridors of power, you see. One of the cards was from S.C. Ager of Radine Road, Barnet in Herts, asking to hear a few of the less often featured orchestras, among them the Sylvians, who, as Mr. Ager says, only had a relatively short life on records, a little over a year. Carroll Gibbons led them. And from the small collection of 78s in our library, I found this recording of a De Silva, Browne and Henderson tune called You Won't See Me If I See You. Not one of their more distinguished pieces, like Button Up Your Overcoat, for instance, or The Best Things in Life Are Free, or The Cream in My Coffee, but fairly jolly. It dates from October 1927. Sylvians, led by Carroll Gibbons, and You Won't See Me If I See You. A little later, we have Carroll and the Savoy Hotel Orpheans on a recently released LP. But now news of a long-serving member of the Billy Cotton Band, saxophonist, clarinetist Mick Burberry. Eric Holmes of Cheltenham in Gloucestershire asks if I could play a record for Mick, who lives in Carlton Street, Cheltenham, and has a birthday around this time. Eric doesn't give me the exact date, but tells me that Mick will be 89, and he still goes to the gym 3 times a week, and will be the subject of an article in the magazine Memory Lane soon. Mick Burberry joined Billy Cotton, I think about 1930, according to the information I have, and he stayed until the mid-50s. Mr. Holmes suggests several records, the earliest being a selection from the film Whoopee, which Bill Cotton recorded in 1931. It's a double-sided 78, and I've made a small selection of the 2 hit tunes, Making Whoopee, which is sung by Sid Buckman, and My Baby Just Cares for Me.
Another bride, another June, another sunny honeymoon, another season, another reason for making whoopee. A lot of shoes, a lot of rides, the groom is numbered, he's answered twice. It's really killing that he's so willing to make whoopee. Picture a little love nest down where the roses cling. Picture the same sweet loveliness. Think what a year can bring. He's washing dishes and baby clothes. He's so ambitious, he even sews. But don't forget, folks, that's what you get, folks, for making whoopee.
Billy Cotton and his band with Sid Buckman and a couple of the tunes from the film Whoopee. This year, it's 20 years since Bill Cotton's passing. Perhaps you heard the fine tribute to his dad from Bill Cotton Jr. We'll have an extra from the band later in the program. Something he recorded in 1939, and you'll hear how the style had changed by then. But now a couple of requests for a particular Jack Jackson record. Mr. C. Rabbit of Henshaw Road, Wellingborough, North Hants, is one who's asked for this. And the second requestee is Cyril Shaw of Beeston Avenue, Altrincham, Cheshire. Mr. Rabbit, the vocalist, is Fred Latham, who was Jack Jackson's principal vocalist for so long, apart from Jack himself, that is. And Fred also sang with Jack Harris, and I believe was a fine cyclist. I'm not sure if he wasn't some sort of a near champion. Anyway, here from March 1935 is Maybe I'm Wrong Again. Jack Jackson's Dorchester Hotel Orchestra with Fred Latham, and Maybe I'm Wrong Again. I had a card from Ken Watson of Birchfield Crescent in Cardiff telling me that in his pre-war collection he had a couple of Rex records by the Cuban Havana band, which he rightly says he's never heard me play, and he would love to hear their recording of Sidewalks of Cuba. And could I enlighten him about the band and the singer? Well, Mr. Watson, hiding his lights under this bushel of the Cuban Havana band is none other than J. Wilbur. And the orchestra was recruited from some of the finest West End musicians, including Freddie Gardner on alto, Ted Heath on trombone, Paul Feneley also trombone, Billy Farrell trumpet, Cyril Grantham in the saxes, and drummer Max Abrams. The singer is that prolific vocalist about records. I think he sang with just about everybody, it seems, Sam Browne.
Give me a table for two where we can both sit and view a sky of blue in a cafe out on the gay sidewalks of Cuba. And as we sit there and dine, you lift a goblet of wine to clink with mine. In a cafe, out on the gay sidewalks of Cuba. Intoxicated by romance, I'll take you by the hand. We join the others as they dance to a hot rumba band. I know I'd even go through a revolution or two, and so would you. I'd take a chance so we could dance, kiss and romance in a cafe out on the gay sidewalks of Cuba.
Good band, wasn't it? The Cuban Havana band, alias J. Wilbur, with Sam Browne, also in March 1935. So we come to that Carroll Gibbons album I mentioned, a recent release on the Savoy label of 20 tunes selected from the years 1936, 37 and 38. As Tony Clark in his album note points out, this was very much a peak period of the Savoy Hotel Orpheans as far as songs, arrangements and performances go. Well, there's music by Irving Berlin, the Gershwins, Noel Coward and Cole Porter here, and other notable writers like Richard Whiting and the Messrs. Sigler, Goodhart and Hoffman, who composed things like This'll Make You Whistle, I'm in a Dancing Mood, and There Isn't Any Limit to My Love, all of them on this album. The orchestra and Robert Ashley opened the LP with 2 Coward songs from Tonight at 8:30, and then we move on to the regulars, and Lena and George Melachrino. And it's one of his vocals that I've chosen this time from A Damsel in Distress. Nice work if you can get it.
You can get it if you try. Strolling with the one girl, sighing side to side. Nice work if you can get it, and you can get it if you try. Just imagine someone waiting at the cottage door, where 2 hearts become one. Who could ask for anything more? Loving one who loves you, and then taking that vow. Nice work if you can get it, and if you get it, won't you tell me how?
work, if you can get it, from a new Carroll Gibbons Savoy Hotel Orpheans LP on the Savoy label called Music Maestro Please. You'll find, as I said, many an all-timer in this selection, the composers that Carroll loved to play, the Gershwins, Porter, etc. Savoy SVL 200 is the number, Music Maestro Please, as I said, the album title. And there are 20 tracks there. Now back to Billy Cotton. In his letter, Eric Holmes, as I said, listed several records, the latest of which, from September 1939, is The Melody Maker with a vocal by Alan Breeze. And that choice ties in with a letter, it's another one of the February letters, by the way, from Don Wills of Leicester, who was a friend of old Breezy and followed the Cotton Band around. Now, this is not one of Bill's jolly ones, Mr. Wills, but it does show how good the band was as a straight dance orchestra. That BBC mouse has had a small nibble at the edge of this 78, so I'm afraid about 8 bars are missing. I think I'll have to find more enticing cheese.
And out of it make a melody. If you feel unhappy or tearful, if you need a song that is cheerful, listen to the melody make a man. Play. Sweet music will drive your cares away, and in a while I'll win a smile. Hear me play, and when I depart, I hope maybe to leave in your heart a memory of the melody maker man.
There you are, Billy Cotton and Alan Breeze, the melody maker. Here's another of those February letters that has only recently turned up. It comes from a long-time friend of the programme, Gilly, D.M. Gillibrand of Bognor Regis, who is a devoted fan of arranger, tenor saxist and vocalist George Evans, such a stalwart of the Geraldo Orchestra. George lives up in Newcastle, and I think he keeps very busy with a rehearsal band up there. Anyway, Gilly, where's it Gilly, would like me to play a philosophic novelty that George Evans recorded with Jerry in November 1942. Charlie Ward, I'm sure, will enjoy this as well. Old Uncle Bud.
When the blues get you down and there's trouble around and you're needing some rest for your soul, take a tip from a character I used to know who had everything under control. All his skies were rosy hued, 'cause he had an attitude. Old Uncle Bud was not an ordinary man, and he might have been a big millionaire. But he slept until 1, and when his whittling was done, he just never had the time to spare. Old Uncle Bud could very easily explain why his cotton fields were always so bare. Somehow they wouldn't grow because they needed a hoe, and he never had the time to spare. He said he never did believe in hurrying unless the trout were jumping in the stream, while other folks were busy with their worrying. He was busy working on a dream. Old Uncle Bud is getting close to 93, but he's happy as a bear at the fair. For he's youthful and spry and can't remember to die, 'cause he never had the time to spare. Uncle Bud was always going to go to work, but it took him just so long to prepare. And most always by then the sun was setting again, so he never had the time to spare. Old Uncle Bud sat down one day to write a book, and he meant to do it right then and there. But the pencil got broke, and later when he awoke, well, he just didn't have the time to spare. His cabin didn't even have a porch on it. He was a no account, folks would say. But while they all were calling him unfortunate, he was growing younger every day. Someday I know that Uncle Bud will travel on, and when he meets old St. Peter up there, he'll say, "Hiya, Gate, I'm awful sorry I'm late, but I never had the time to spare."
They were Geraldo and his orchestra, George Evans and Old Uncle Bud. Little tune from, when was that, about 1942, I think I said. Yes, November 1942. That one for Gilly, Miss Gilly Brand down in Bognor Regis, who, as I said, is a great fan of George Evans and this program too. Anyway, that sees this selection of Dance Band Day's request to an end. We'll have some more next Monday. In a couple of minutes, sounds from the big band era, right after this evening's cricket scoreboard from Brian Butler.
And good evening. And despite a day-long battle in the sun by England, only rain looks capable of saving them from defeat by Australia on the final day tomorrow of the second Cornhill Test at Lord's. The details: England 286 and 322 for 9, Australia 528, so England's lead is 80. The story of the day's play comes from Andy Smith.
Terry Alderman, it was said, was a spent force when he arrived here in April for this tour. His best years, they said, were behind him. At 32, they thought he was little more than a medium-paced trundler. But he's proved at Lord's that he's an international bowler of guile and stamina. 34 overs, 6 maidens, 6 for 111 his figures so far in this innings, and 19 wickets in the series so far. And apart perhaps from Steve Waugh, he's the major difference between the two sides. England's hopes of saving this test were dashed early on when Gatting fell LBW to Alderman for 22, not playing a stroke again. Gower's 106 and Robin Smith's 96 were both fluent knocks, played under real pressure, but Border never panicked or let the game slip. Russell went for 29, Foster and Jarvis cheaply, and England just 80 ahead. Pray for rain tomorrow.
Well, now the scoreboard in the Britannic Assurance Championship. At Worcester, Middlesex have beaten Worcestershire by 9 wickets. Worcestershire 142 and 172. Angus Fraser finishing with match figures of 8 for 73. Middlesex 221 and 96 for 1. Worcestershire 4 points, Middlesex 22. And at Leicester, Leicestershire have beaten Nottinghamshire by an innings and 101 runs. The details here: Leicestershire 352 for 6 declared, Laurie Potter 121 not out, Nottinghamshire 116, Jonathan Agnew 5 for 37, Chris Lewis 5 for 51, and following on 236 runs behind, 135, Agnew this time 6 for 56, Leicestershire 23 points, Notts 1. At Ilford, Essex, the leaders against Warwickshire. Warwickshire 338 and 107 for 4. Essex 335. Nasser Hussain 141. Warwickshire lead by 110. At Southampton, Hampshire.